what a
The
night.
last day of the Premier League season.
Queen's Park Rangers obviously had an issue. They weren't just here making up the numbers on the last day of the season. They were playing to stay in the Premier League. In terms of the ability of the two teams, you would have thought that City would win in a reasonably straightforward fashion.
Goodness me, it was the most unstraightforward afternoon that you're ever likely to watch in any sport in all of your life.
44 years, 22 changes of manager, 5 relegations and 5 promotions. Manchester City stand on the edge of glory again.
Manchester City will become only the 5th different name on the Roll of Honour if they beat Queen's Park Rangers.
There will be tears. You know there will be tears.
I knew it before I was told it. I knew it from the fans around me.
No goals, but there has been one on which side.
Manchester United lead. Pressure on Manchester City. Only against Queen's Park Rangers at home, but it's goalless at the moment.
Warrior, that's the word that always comes to mind about Pablo.
I don't think there could have been a more popular scorer.
It's Abaleta! Where's it going to drop? It's in! The mood changes from desperation to delight.
You could sense that there was people were starting to believe, but always you still feel that there are City fans around who are thinking, how is this all going to go wrong? It's got to go wrong somehow.
It is half-time. It is engrossing, undulating, entirely absorbing.
At half-time I did speak to some of the spectators behind us and they were not ready to party just yet.
Because of the immediacy of deadlines, especially now in a digital age, you usually, especially for a Sunday game or an evening game, you have to start writing your report during the game. I probably started at half-time to dare to start writing the glory stuff.
A cup of tea and a biscuit, and on we go.
Manchester City 45 minutes away, barring mishaps.
Where we are in the press box, you're amongst the fans, which is brilliant. So they were turning around all the time, partly for updates on what was happening with Manchester United, partly because they didn't want to see what unfolded in that extraordinary moment when QPR, who were fighting for their lives, got back into it.
Queen's Park Rangers hadn't read the script.
I can remember almost hearing a
The Cisse seesaw.
And Cisse scores for Queen's Park Rangers! That just was not meant to happen!
We're suddenly tipping back the other way, and the instinctive pessimism of City fans kicks in again.
The anxiety around that stadium, it's hard to find the words to describe it, but you could tangibly feel it.
It is agony. It's the rule of football. Before the ecstasy, if it is to come, there has to be a period of agony.
The whole tension clearly got to the QPR players as well as City's, and it got to him more than anything. Maybe even thinking deep down, I could have been a part of this, and it never worked out for me.
Obviously, connections here. It wasn't pretty.
There's a red card, and Joey Barton stares controversy in the face again.
He's handed Manchester City a title chance.
But also there was that nagging feeling that if any club could fail to beat a 10-man group of strugglers without a prayer, it was going to be City because of their history. But this was a major moment in their favour.
I've given up trying to predict anything in football.
This couldn't happen, could it? Down to 10 men.
It put the cat amongst the pigeons here, didn't it, really?
Mackey! Jamie Mackey has sent Manchester City towards heartbreak on the final day of the season. It is typical City.
Typical City. I had that phrase in my mind.
It's Mackey scored! The Man City fans, you cannot believe it, Jeff.
I've talked to Man City fans since when I've been up and down the country, and they left. Some of them left the ground at 2-1.
But there tears already. It isn't done yet, boy.
When you're working for the club's commentary channel and you're trying to not be biased, but with an emphasis on the club, you are trying to stay positive. But when Mackey scores, the place was completely deflated.
You couldn't help but feel for these fans who turned up expecting to have a party.
The look of pending heartache amongst some of the City fans sitting in front of us was clear. I mean, I saw this woman who walked out, and I described her, possibly a bit unfairly, looking like she just staggered out of a car crash.
But at this point, I was literally in full flow, writing my report about how there just seems to be something about the club, almost as if it's cursed.
I think the last few minutes of the game, a lot of the tension had disappeared, and that might have been what helped the players on the field, because most of the fans sitting around us were thinking, well, that's it then.
I was sitting there and I'm thinking, this is going to fizzle out. And then Charlie said to me, Charlie, Nick and Tomo said, what do you reckon, what do you reckon? And I said, there'll be drama. There'll definitely be drama in this game. Something's going to happen.
The injury time, or Fergie time as I called it, was just one of the most unbelievable passages of play I've ever witnessed.
And then all of a sudden the corner come over.
Silva whips it in. Header, goal! It's 2-2! And Dzeko! And they run back to the halfway line trip.
When Dzeko's header hits the net, your first response is to look at your watch.
4 minutes to save themselves. 4 minutes to find their crown.
I remember saying to my producer, who did get a little bit excited, I remember saying, well, this is City, that just makes it worse.
The tiniest little bit of hope. It's the hope that's been killing them for years.
The other subplot, of course, was the news was coming through to QPR and they were getting calls directly to the bench. One of their backroom staff had gone to the game that affected their relegation issue.
QPR were out on their feet. They had nothing left. There were only 10 of them. And what's more, fairly early in stoppage time, they learnt that they were safe. So, in a sense, they were now a sitting duck.
I'm not saying for one moment that it affected their concentration, but somebody might argue that.
And I remember QPR got the ball and they kicked it in the corner. They literally kicked it in the corner, and they all run back to the edge of the box.
It's now come down effectively to goal. It was all down to individuals taking responsibility. And Balotelli has had some criticism. I've slagged him off on many an occasion for some of the daft things that he's done. But I tell you what, that was a great pass to Aguero.
It's finished at Sunderland.
Tony Mills was the match director, who's I've worked with actually for most of the years that I've been in television. And his talent for keeping calm at a moment like that, because it's not just what was happening here. We have the pictures at Sunderland as well.
Manchester United have done all they can. That Rooney goal was enough for the 3 points.
To have the shots, the split screen of the United players that much away from winning another Premier League title. And then we came back from that to the moment Balotelli got the ball.
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli!
It was a Hollywood feature film made with all the advantages of high tech doing it after the event. You couldn't have got it better, and Tony got it absolutely spot on. And then the roof fell in, really.
Aguero!
I do get asked sometimes, oh, did you have that ready to say? And I go, how on earth could you imagine a scenario like that? After I said Aguero, with a lot of O's on the end, there is a period of silence. That's partly down because I think pictures tell the story better than words, but also Mark Hughes told me the next night it's the noisiest moment in a football ground he'd ever experienced. So that sort of, I think, had some effect on that noise was in my ears, not just in the stadium, but we have the crowd effects in our ears as well.
Watch it! Drink it in! They've just heard the news at the Stadium of Light!
I see that goal in slow motion.